Holly, come lie down on your back for me. On your other back. Oh, okay, so I assessed Holly, and it was, I believe, at T4 that there was a flexion fixation. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, before I even start working, I'm going to get the table into some degree of flexion. I've elevated the headpiece to start inducing flexion. I'm going to ask you to bend your knees for me. Dr. Don probably won't show you that tomorrow. It's just a trick that I know that I've developed over time, because all of a sudden you're in a C. C is flexion. Okay, I'm inducing flexion before I even start to work. Now, do you mind if I, what's your name again?
Luke.
Luke, grab me the guy? Okay, so where am I? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Between T4 and T5 interspace, there is a flexion fixation, and I want to open up this sucker. I'm gonna apply my contact down on it now. And remember, it's going to be a flat surface. And I don't care what contact you use, as long as it's a flat surface. It could be something like this, where you take your hand and turn it into a fist, with your thumb sticking up like, hey. And then you're going to take this flat surface here. Where am I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 4, 5. You're going to take the flat surface and put it in between the spinous process, like this, in the interspinous space, so that, and you know you're in the right spot because the interspace that is stuck is resting on that flat space, and the rest of the spinous processes are in the divot that has been created between your thenar eminence and the curl of your finger. Okay. Or you can do it this way, where your thumb goes down and your thumb is now the flat space put between that interspace, and again the rest of the spinous processes are resting in that pillow that's created between the divot of your thenar eminence and your fingers. Or you can open up your hand, which I find to be much, much gentler, and in fact this is my contact that I typically use. This is the contact Dr. Dunk uses. This is the contact that I use. You use whatever, I don't care. Where again my thumb is going to be the spot that is inserted in that interspace, and again the spinous processes are still in that same spot. If I were to curl my fingers, it would still be in that divot that's created between the thenar eminence and my fingers, but this time it's open. Okay. Or I could get my thumb totally out of the way and do exactly the same thing. Doesn't matter. Okay? But as long as you've got something flat in between that interspace, and the rest of the spinous processes are resting in between where the divot would be if you had your hand in a fist, then you're good. Okay. Now, Dr. Dunk tomorrow is going to show you a bunch of different ways to do this adjustment. You can either slide your fist in ipsilaterally, meaning the same side that you're standing, or contralaterally. It doesn't matter. Because of the sake of time, I'm going to show you the one that I use the most, and this is that I use the contralateral adjustment. This is the one that I use. So what that means is that I'm standing on one side, I'm going to take my other hand and reach across like this, as opposed to taking this hand and reaching across like this. In the end, it doesn't matter because we're adjusting midline. So it doesn't matter which hand's doing what. Doesn't matter. Okay, and I'm going to start to achieve flexion in the spine. And again, Dr. Dunk's going to show you a bunch of different ways tomorrow on how to achieve flexion. He'll show you that he likes to interlace his patient's fingers this way, and he applies a pressure like this. Or you can cross your arms and apply pressure like this. I don't care, as long as you do it right. Personally, I like this, so that's how I'm going to show it to you. Okay, so Holly's laid down now, and geez, I palpated her, but now she's lying down this way, and I don't remember what was going on. Okay, well, cool, I'll find it. What I'll do is I'll cross my patient's arms like this so that they're hugging the scapula. Why the scapula? Well, because when I start to induce flexion, I can get a lot of flexion power by moving her elbows like this, as opposed to if I were to do this wimpy little X thing and not as much flexion. Okay? So I'm going to have you hug your shoulders. Lots of flexion. Good. I can control it. Now, I totally lost where it was. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get into a fencer stance. Holly, I'm going to have you roll towards me a little bit. Oh, no. I just want you to roll, not to shift. Okay, so back on your back you go. Okay, now I just want you to roll towards me a little bit. I'm going to put my finger in the interspace between, if I were starting at T1, but this is for T3 and down, so T3. And I'm going to induce flexion in the spine by applying pressure downward. And I'm looking to see the spaces open. And if the spaces don't open, this is where I know that this is the spot that I was in before. I'm going to mark that spot. Now, I'm going to take my contact. So, Holly, I'm going to take my contact, and I'm going to put this part right in that interspace there, and the rest of the spinous processes are going to be resting in that little divot that would have been created. However you want to do it, it's okay. I don't care. It's a little tender in here. Okay, so I'm going to slide my hand in there. Okay, and now I'm going to roll you over. Okay, now we've got Holly's back on me like this. And the idea is that when I'm done taking out all the joint slack, I'm going to want to feel the most weight of these two interspaces, like pushing on my thumb. That pressure that I'm going to induce by putting my body weight on top of hers is going to give me that weight to try to jimmy open this joint. So I need to feel maximum weight over this thumb. If I'm not feeling her body weight over my thumb, I'm not in the right spot. I need to move her body until I feel maximum weight over there. Okay. So Holly's going to take a deep breath in, breath out. And then you're going to breathe normally. Now on the breath out, what I'm going to do is try to open up that space as much as possible. I'm fairly high up in the thoracic spine. I'm at like T4. So at T4, I'm going to need some flexion, but also lots and lots of cephalad traction. So on her breath out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flex and put my sternum down over my hand like this. Okay. Now, I know that I'm in the right spot because my head feels like it's off in no man's land, but my sternum is totally centered over my patient. If I was like this, where my head is totally centered, the weight is to her left, but I need to be exactly centered. So I'm going to apply some flexion and plant my hand down on it. Now, I don't know if you guys can see up here that my thumb is totally visible to you, right?
Yeah.
That means that I don't have any weight on it. I need to induce some shoulder shrugging now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lunge forward. So while I apply that weight down and hold on to it, I'm going to move myself forward. Shoulder shrug. Watch. Okay? And all of a sudden, it felt really nice and tight to you. It felt like, okay, just do this already. So flexion, cephalad traction, and now I'm ready to adjust. I've got this thing. It's as open as it possibly can be before I apply that force downward. But the thing is that high up like this, I didn't just apply a flexion force this way. I applied a force this way, and then I applied a force this way. So this plus this equals that. So when I'm going to thrust, I'm actually higher up in the thoracic spine. So I've done flexion, cephalad traction. My thrust will be 45 degrees down. If I were lower down in the spine, I would need lots of flexion. So flexion, no cephalad traction. So this vector plus 0 equals this vector. I'd be thrusting straight down. The thrust is a bow and a bend at the knee. That will jimmy everything open. Let's see how this looks. Okay. Breath in. All the way out. Flexion, cephalad traction. I already got it. And thrust. Okay. Somebody else to show Holly.